When a woman is right on the edge of coming back into your life, one of the most confusing things you'll notice is that she suddenly goes quiet. No texts, no calls, no obvious signs of interest. On the surface, it looks like she's disappearing for good. But beneath that silence, something very different is happening. She isn't forgetting you. She's watching you more closely than ever. This phase happens when her emotions are waking up again, but her logic and ego are fighting to stay in control. Silence at this stage is not emotional detachment, it's emotional tension. She's in her head replaying moments, remembering how you made her feel, and questioning whether walking away was the right decision. When a woman truly loses interest, she doesn't go silent, she becomes indifferent. She stops caring what you're doing. She doesn't check your updates. She doesn't ask about you. Silence with curiosity behind it is completely different. That's the kind of silence that signals unfinished emotional business. What triggers this phase is often your absence combined with growth. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop trying to convince her of your value, her subconscious starts filling in the gaps. Humans are wired to want what they can't fully access. When you remove your attention, her mind begins to work overtime. She wonders why you're not reaching out. She questions why you seem calm. She notices that you're no longer trying to win her back. This contrast creates emotional imbalance inside her, and emotional imbalance is what reignites attraction. During this quiet period, she starts observing instead of engaging. She watches how you handle life without her. She looks for signs of weakness or strength. Are you still posting emotional quotes? Are you trying to show off for her? Are you pretending to be happy but clearly hurting? Or are you genuinely focused, grounded, and moving forward? Women are extremely intuitive when it comes to emotional authenticity. She can sense whether your confidence is real or forced. If she sees consistency, discipline, and calm energy, her respect grows, and respect is the foundation of attraction. Another reason she goes silent is fear. Reaching out first would mean admitting that she misses you or made a mistake. That threatens her ego. Silence allows her to keep control while still staying emotionally connected. She tells herself she's just checking or just curious, but the truth is she's emotionally invested again. She may scroll through your social media late at night. She may reread old messages. She may bring you up in conversation with friends, pretending she doesn't care while caring deeply. This is also the phase where she's trying to determine if you're still the same man she left. If you are, there's no reason for her to come back. But if you've changed, if you're stronger, calmer, and more self-directed, her attraction begins to rebuild quietly. Women don't come back because you convince them with words. They come back because their emotions tell them something feels different. Silence gives her the space to feel that difference without pressure. Many men destroy this moment by panicking. They interpret silence as rejection and rush to fill the void with texts, apologies, or emotional outbursts. This kills the mystery and removes the tension that was working in their favor. When you chase during this phase, you communicate insecurity and neediness, even if your words sound confident. The energy behind them gives you away. The man who stays composed, who lets the silence exist, becomes the man she can't stop thinking about. Silence also allows her imagination to take over. When you're constantly available, there's nothing to wonder about. But when you step back, her mind starts creating stories. She imagines you improving your life. She imagines other women noticing you. She imagines losing access to you forever. Imagination amplifies emotion far more powerfully than reality. That's why distance, when handled correctly, increases attraction rather than destroys it. Another critical aspect of this phase is that she's emotionally recalibrating. Relationships create emotional habits. Even after separation, those emotional bonds don't just disappear. Silence disrupts the pattern. It forces her to feel the absence more sharply. She starts noticing the void you used to fill. The comfort of your presence, your leadership, your stability, these things become clearer only when they're gone. Silence makes her feel the loss without you having to point it out. At the same time, she's assessing her own options. She may be dating or talking to other men, but the silence allows her to compare. And comparison almost always works in favor of the man who didn't beg, chase, or collapse emotionally. If other men feel inconsistent, needy, or ungrounded, your calm absence becomes even more attractive. She begins to associate you with emotional safety and maturity, even if she doesn't consciously realize it. This is why patience is power. The man who understands this phase doesn't rush it. He doesn't try to control the outcome. He focuses on his mission, his health, his purpose, and his growth. This isn't an act, it's a transformation. And that transformation is what she's watching for. Women are drawn to men who are self-directed, not relationship-dependent. Silence reveals whether you've truly embodied that mindset or if you were just pretending. It's important to understand that her silence doesn't mean she knows exactly what she wants yet. She's processing emotions that don't make logical sense to her. She may feel drawn to you while also telling herself she shouldn't be. That inner conflict creates hesitation. Silence is her way of sitting with those feelings until clarity forms. When the emotional pull becomes stronger than her resistance, she reaches out. And when she does, it often seems casual or indirect. That's because the silence built the emotional pressure quietly. She doesn't want to admit how much she missed you. She wants to see if the door is still open without risking rejection. But that moment, the first reach out, is only possible because you didn't break the silence prematurely. The biggest mistake men make is assuming they need to do something during this phase. In reality, your power comes from being, not doing. Being consistent, being centered, being unavailable to drama. Silence works only when it's backed by real internal strength. If you're silently suffering, obsessing, and waiting, she'll feel that energy. But if you're genuinely moving forward, silence becomes magnetic. This phase teaches a critical lesson. Attraction isn't negotiated, it's felt, and feelings need space to grow. Silence creates that space. It allows her emotions to resurface naturally, without pressure or persuasion. It turns you from someone she left into someone she might lose forever, and that shift from familiarity to potential loss is what changes everything. When you understand this, you stop fearing silence, you stop trying to control outcomes, you trust the process. And ironically, that trust is what makes you more attractive than any text, explanation, or emotional plea ever could. Right before a woman comes back into your life, she rarely makes a bold, obvious move. Instead, she tests you. These tests are subtle, indirect, and often disguised as harmless or meaningless interactions. To the untrained eye, they seem insignificant. To a man who understands female psychology and emotional attraction, they are loud signals. These tests are not about logic or conversation. They are about emotional strength, self-control, and whether you are still centered in your masculine core. A woman tests when she feels attraction, but doesn't yet feel safe enough to fully express it. Attraction creates vulnerability. Reaching out directly would expose her emotions and risk rejection or loss of control. So instead, she sends small probes. A like on an old photo, a reaction to a story, a random message asking something she could easily figure out herself. Sometimes it's a "hey stranger," sometimes it's a joke, sometimes it's pretending nothing happened. None of these are accidents. They are emotional feelers designed to see how you respond. The purpose of these tests is simple. She wants to know if you are emotionally stable. She wants to see if she still has power over you. If she does, attraction dies. If she doesn't, attraction grows. That's the paradox most men don't understand. The moment you show that her attention is your emotional fuel, she loses interest. But when you show that your life is full, grounded, and unaffected by her validation, curiosity turns into desire. Many men fail these tests immediately. They respond too fast. They over-explain. They ask too many questions. They turn a casual message into a long emotional conversation. This signals that they've been waiting, hoping, and replaying the past. Even if the words sound confident, the energy behind them is desperate. Women don't respond to words, they respond to emotional energy. And emotional neediness is repulsive at this stage. Passing the test doesn't mean ignoring her completely or acting cold. It means responding from a place of calm indifference, friendly, grounded, unattached to outcome. You acknowledge her without rewarding her with excessive attention. You don't interrogate her intentions. You don't bring up the past. You don't ask where things are going. You simply mirror the level of investment she's offering, and no more. These tests often escalate if she senses strength. If you pass the first one, she sends another. Maybe she brings up a shared memory. Maybe she lightly flirts. Maybe she hints at missing something about you. Each time, she's checking whether you remain centered or start leaning in emotionally. The man who stays, composed, forces her to lean in further. Attraction grows when she invests emotionally, not when you do. Another common test is unpredictability. She may message you and then disappear again. This isn't cruelty, it's hesitation. She's torn between desire and fear. The disappearance is a way to see if you'll panic, double, text, or demand clarity. When you don't, when you simply continue living your life, you demonstrate emotional maturity. That maturity makes her feel safe and drawn at the same time. Sometimes the test comes in the form of emotional bait. She may complain about her life, a bad date, or how no one understands her. This is an invitation for you to step into the emotional caretaker role. Many men jump at this chance, thinking it builds connection. In reality, it places you in a weak, feminine position. The strong response is empathy without overinvestment. You listen, you acknowledge, but you don't try to fix or rescue. You remain grounded in yourself. Another subtle test is jealousy. She may mention another man casually or post something designed to provoke a reaction. She's watching to see if you get territorial, insecure, or competitive. The man who passes doesn't react emotionally. He doesn't try to one-up. He doesn't withdraw. He remains unaffected. This communicates abundance and confidence, which fuels attraction far more than possessiveness ever could. These tests are not conscious strategies. She's not sitting there planning them. They emerge naturally from emotional uncertainty. Her subconscious is asking, has he grown? Is he stronger? Is he still the man I respected? Every calm, centered response answers those questions in your favor. What's crucial to understand is that failing a test doesn't always end things, but it delays attraction. Each time you overreact, you confirm her doubts. Each time you remain grounded, you dissolve them. This is why self-mastery matters more than technique. You can't fake emotional strength for long. Eventually, your true state shows. The reason these tests matter so much right before she comes back is because they determine whether returning feels safe or risky. A woman will only re-enter a connection if she feels you won't collapse emotionally or try to control her. Your composure signals that you're not dependent on her presence for your identity or happiness, that independence is magnetic. It's also why timing matters. Responding instantly can signal that you have nothing else going on. Taking a little time not as a tactic, but because you're genuinely busy, communicates a full life. When your actions align naturally with confidence, there's no need for manipulation. Another layer of these tests is consistency. She's watching to see if your energy stays the same over time. One calm response isn't enough. She wants to see if you remain centered after multiple interactions. This consistency reassures her that your growth is real, not temporary. Consistency builds trust. Trust allows attraction to deepen. As the tests continue, her messages may become warmer. She may ask more personal questions. She may initiate conversations more often. At this point, many men get excited and speed up emotionally. That's another test. Can you enjoy the interaction without attaching to the outcome? Can you stay present without projecting the future? The man who can do this naturally becomes the emotional leader again. Eventually, the testing phase reaches a tipping point. Her curiosity turns into certainty. Her hesitation turns into action. But that only happens if she feels emotionally safe and drawn at the same time. Safety without attraction leads to friendship. Attraction without safety leads to chaos. Your calm strength balances both. Understanding this phase changes how you see her behavior. Instead of feeling confused or anxious, you recognize the signs. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. You stop trying to win her back and start embodying the man she wants to return to. In the end, these subtle tests are not obstacles, they are invitations. Invitations to demonstrate who you've become. Invitations to lead with presence rather than pressure. Invitations to show that you are no longer the man who chased, pleaded, or feared loss. You are the man who stands firm, grounded in his purpose, regardless of who comes or goes. And that is the man she finds impossible to ignore. Before a woman comes back, something powerful begins happening inside her that she rarely talks about openly. She starts comparing you to every man she encounters after you. At first, this comparison is subtle. She tells herself she's moved on. She believes that new experiences will erase old emotions, but attraction doesn't work that way. Emotional bonds don't disappear just because a relationship ends. They fade only when something stronger replaces them. And when nothing stronger appears, the past starts to stand out. This comparison phase is triggered when distance and time remove the emotional noise. Arguments, disappointments, and misunderstandings lose their intensity. What remains is the emotional imprint you left behind. How you made her feel, how safe she felt with you, how you led, grounded, and stabilized the connection when things were good. When she interacts with new men, those feelings become reference points whether she wants them to or not. Every new man she meets is measured against you, often unconsciously. How he communicates, how he handles stress, how he makes decisions, how emotionally steady he is, and more importantly, how he makes her feel about herself. Most men fail these comparisons quickly. Some are confident but emotionally unavailable. Some are attentive but insecure. Some try too hard. Some lack direction. The more these interactions disappoint her expectations, the more your absence becomes noticeable. What makes this phase so powerful is that you're not there to influence it. You're not competing. You're not trying to prove anything. Your value is being measured in silence, and silence amplifies contrast. When you were present, she may have taken your strengths for granted. When you're gone, those strengths become rare. Scarcity sharpens appreciation. This is also the stage where nostalgia starts to work in your favor. She remembers moments that felt effortless, conversations that flowed naturally, the way you handled challenges, the way you made her laugh or feel calm during uncertainty. Nostalgia isn't about fantasy, it's about emotional truth. And emotional truth resurfaces when the present fails to deliver what the past provided. At the same time, she begins to notice your growth. Whether through social cues, mutual friends, or your online presence, she sees signs that you've moved forward. This is critical. Growth changes the comparison entirely. She's no longer comparing new men to the old version of you. She's comparing them to an upgraded version. That gap makes her question her decision even more deeply. Many women expect men to fall apart after a breakup. When you don't, it disrupts their narrative. When you improve instead of decline, it creates cognitive dissonance. She starts wondering if she underestimated you, if she left too soon, if she misjudged your potential. These questions linger and grow louder as time passes. Another layer of this comparison is emotional safety. Most men can create excitement. Very few can create stability without boredom. If you were one of those rare men who balanced confidence with presence, humor with leadership, she feels that absence acutely. Emotional safety is invisible until it's gone. Once it's gone, it's hard to replace. She may try to convince herself that you weren't perfect. She may focus on your flaws, but comparison weakens that defense when she sees the same flaws or worse. In others, her rationalizations collapse. She realizes that no connection is flawless. What matters is how it feels overall, and if the overall feeling with you was stronger, that realization hits hard. This is often the stage where she starts talking about you more, even if she pretends not to care. She may ask mutual friends how you're doing. She may casually bring you up in conversation. She may even criticize you lightly as a way to mask lingering attachment. Indifference doesn't talk, emotion does. Comparison also activates fear, fear of settling, fear of losing something rare, fear of making the same mistake twice. As she continues meeting men who don't measure up, the idea of returning to you becomes less about going backward and more about reclaiming something valuable. What makes this phase so dangerous for many men is impatience. If you reach out during this time trying to remind her of your value, you interrupt the process. Comparison needs space. It needs time. The more you stay out of the way, the more clearly she sees the contrast. Your restraint becomes part of the attraction. This is why self-focus is essential. The man who truly benefits from this phase isn't waiting for her return. He's building a life so strong that her return becomes optional, not necessary. That energy is felt even from a distance. When she senses that you're not paused emotionally, her attraction intensifies. Eventually, the comparisons stop being theoretical. They become emotional conclusions. She stops asking if she can find someone better and starts realizing that she hasn't. That realization is humbling. It challenges pride. It forces honesty. And honesty often leads back to the man who set the standard. It's important to understand that this doesn't mean you were perfect or that she idealizes you unrealistically. It means the emotional connection was real and meaningful. It means you left an imprint that others haven't erased. That's not something you can manufacture. It's something you earn through consistency, presence, and authentic masculinity. This phase also redefines power. Power shifts to the man who didn't chase, beg, or try to negotiate attraction. Power belongs to the man who trusted his value enough to walk forward without guarantees. That power makes coming back feel like her choice, not your demand. And choice is what preserves attraction long term. When she finally reaches out from this place, it's different. It's not curiosity, it's not boredom, it's recognition, recognition of what she lost, recognition of what you represent, recognition that some connections don't get replaced, they get remembered. Understanding this phase frees you from anxiety. You stop wondering if she's thinking about you. You stop comparing yourself to others. You realize that true value doesn't need constant visibility. It reveals itself through absence, and absence, when combined with growth, becomes undeniable. In the end, comparison is not about winning against other men. It's about standing out by being rooted in who you are. When you live that way, you don't need to convince her to come back. The contrast does the convincing for you. Right before a woman comes back into your life, one emotion rises above all the others inside her: fear. Not fear of you, not fear of love, but fear of losing you permanently. This fear doesn't appear suddenly. It builds quietly over time as she senses a shift in your energy, your availability, and your emotional position. It's the moment when she realizes that you are no longer waiting, no longer paused, and no longer emotionally tied to her outcome. And that realization changes everything. At first, she assumes she has time. She believes that if she ever wanted to come back, you would be there. This assumption gives her comfort and control. But as weeks or months pass and your behavior remains consistent, calm, grounded, self-directed, that comfort begins to erode. She notices that you're not checking in, you're not asking about her life, you're not reacting to her presence or absence. This lack of emotional dependency signals something dangerous to her subconscious. You might actually be moving on. Fear emerges when perceived loss becomes real. As long as she believes you're emotionally available, there's no urgency. Once she senses that your attention, energy, and future are no longer centered around her, urgency takes its place. This fear is not logical. It doesn't come from a checklist of reasons. It comes from the emotional understanding that once a man fully moves on, access to him is gone for good. This is where many women feel internal panic without fully understanding why. She may tell herself she's fine. She may rationalize her feelings, but emotionally, she starts replaying memories. She remembers how you showed up during difficult moments, how you handled pressure, how you made her feel secure without suffocating her. These memories gain emotional weight because they are now framed by potential permanence. It's no longer "I can have him if I want." It becomes "I might never have him again." Fear of permanent loss is powerful because it cuts through ego. Pride can suppress desire temporarily, but it cannot override fear forever. When the fear becomes strong enough, it forces action. That's why many women reach out unexpectedly after long periods of silence, not because they plan to, but because the emotional pressure became too intense to ignore. This fear intensifies when she notices signs that your life is expanding without her. It's not about jealousy alone. It's about displacement. She realizes that she may no longer be central to your emotional world. You're building routines, relationships, goals, and a sense of purpose that don't include her. This doesn't just threaten her sense of importance, it challenges her identity within your story. And that loss of position creates deep emotional discomfort. Another factor that amplifies this fear is uncertainty. When you were chasing, she knew where she stood. When you stop, she doesn't. She doesn't know what you're thinking. She doesn't know if you still care. She doesn't know if she could come back even if she wanted to. Uncertainty creates anxiety, and anxiety fuels fear. The less predictable you become, the more her emotional mind fills in worst-case scenarios. At this stage, she may begin checking for reassurance indirectly. She may monitor your online activity. She may ask mutual friends about you. She may look for clues that you're still emotionally open. Every sign of independence strengthens the fear. Every sign of growth deepens it, because growth suggests permanence. A man who is evolving isn't circling back, he's moving forward. This is also where many women confront regret. Not regret in a dramatic sense, but a quiet, persistent questioning. Did I make the right choice? Was I too impulsive? Did I undervalue something rare? Regret doesn't mean she wants to rewind time. It means she's reassessing value. And reassessment happens only when the alternative feels final. The fear of losing you permanently also awakens competitive instincts. Even if no other woman is visibly present, the possibility that someone else could take her place triggers urgency. It's not ownership, it's recognition of scarcity. When something feels abundant, it's easy to let go. When it feels scarce, attachment intensifies. What's critical here is that this fear only emerges when you genuinely let go. If you're pretending to move on while secretly waiting, the energy doesn't shift. Women are extremely sensitive to emotional undercurrents. She will sense hesitation, but when your detachment is real, when you've accepted any outcome, the emotional signal changes. You're no longer reacting to her, you're leading yourself, and leadership without attachment is deeply attractive. This is also the phase where many women attempt to reconnect casually, not with emotional confessions, but with low-risk outreach. A simple message, a question, a shared memory. These are not coincidences. They are attempts to relieve fear without fully exposing vulnerability. She wants to know if the door is still open before stepping through it. The mistake many men make at this point is over-celebrating her return. They pour emotion into the moment. They reveal how much they missed her. They rush toward reassurance. This immediately dissolves the fear, and with it, the attraction. Fear only works when it's unresolved. The man who stays calm, present, and relaxed allows her to continue leaning in emotionally. Fear of permanent loss also forces clarity. Ambivalence fades. She stops oscillating between options. The emotional noise quiets. What remains is a clear recognition of what matters. This clarity often surprises her. She didn't expect to feel this way, but emotions don't follow expectations. They follow meaning. Importantly, this fear doesn't mean she wants to reclaim the past exactly as it was. It means she wants access to the man you've become. That distinction matters. If you revert to your old patterns, the fear disappears, and so does the desire. The attraction is tied to your evolution, not your availability. This phase also reveals the difference between attachment and choice. When she comes back from fear, it's not because she feels obligated. It's because she chooses to re-engage. Choice preserves attraction. Obligation kills it. Your job is not to convince her. It's to remain aligned with who you are. Ultimately, fear of losing you permanently is the emotional tipping point. It's the moment when potential loss outweighs pride, hesitation, and rationalization. It's the moment when silence turns into action, and it only happens when you stop trying to make it happen. Understanding this frees you from manipulation. You no longer need tactics. You no longer need to chase signals. You focus on building a life that moves forward regardless of who joins it. That forward motion is what creates fear, not through threat, but through truth. When a woman senses that you are genuinely at peace with moving on, she sees you clearly, not as someone she left, but as someone she could lose forever. And that realization is often what brings her back, on her own terms, driven by her emotions, not your effort.